So this is my 1996 Mark IV JZA80 Supra. It's an original RZ, being a 1.5 and not a Series 2. It got all the really cool like exterior Series 2 items, but the driveline was all Series 1. So what that means is it didn't get the really fancy VVTi drive-by-wire stuff that everyone is using nowadays. It has an original non-VVTi, really basic 3-litre in it. Had the cable throttle and all of that really kind of old school type stuff. My preference at the time, things have changed. I've owned this car since I think 2015, so a little over 10 years now. But for the past 5 years, it has been just rotting in a field. I got defected back in 2020, I think it was, when the lockdowns here in Melbourne first started. And I basically parked it up. It was too hard to get anything done. The rego has lapsed. At the time, it had massive turbo on it, big intake, which you can kind of see hidden down the back over here. Nice little hyper tune 12 injector thing tucked away in there amongst all the parts. Obviously, big tires and everything on the back because I'm an idiot and I thought they were cool at the time. Now I'm very much over them. But I'm at the point where I just want to get this thing back on the road. I just want to be able to go and drive it, not have to worry about making, ridiculous amounts of power or worrying about police and that type of thing. So basically this project is just going to be documenting all the things that I need to do to get this car back to standard, get it registered again here in Melbourne. And then, I do have a nice big engine for it, a Nitto 3.3 to go back in. And I'll probably do either a small single turbo setup on it, something that works really well on the street, or I don't know, maybe I'll try and go for high flows or something like that. But anyway, this car has been absolutely rotting into the ground for quite a long time now. Had a little bit of damage on the back quarter, which you can kind of see tucked in here, starting to rust a little bit now. The rest of it's pretty good. Having had a paint job before, it doesn't have all your typical hatch rust and all the other type of stuff that it gets around the windows on these older Supras. The interior, again, in quite a lot of pieces, and because I started pulling this down a couple of years ago, I really can't remember what I did with everything. I don't know where it all is. Apparently I removed the head unit. Don't remember ever doing that, but anyway, that's something I'll have to sort out as we try and get it back on the road. I'll also need to work out all of the electronics. So you may be able to see that this is clearly not a factory wiring harness because I was originally running a Haltech 2500 on it, and I went through and I actually stripped out all of the factory turbo, the VSV wiring and everything, because I didn't need it. I was single turbo, I wasn't using any of that stuff. Now I've got the challenge of trying to get the stock twins back onto this. I'm just accepting the fact that it's going to be doing a true twin conversion. I've got no choice in the matter unless I feel like building an aftermarket system to try and manage the turbo changeover, which I might do. It might be a fun little Raspberry Pi project or something like that, who knows. But yeah, the reality is I need to get this back on the road. I need to get it cleaned up first. It did have solid engine mounts in it. You can see that I've changed those back over to focus. There we go. I've changed it over to TRD engine mounts now, converted the Series 2 upper brackets to Series 1 so it could take those. I'll need to go through and change back away from it. You can see how old this build was, right? This is an original Virtual Works upper water neck. You can see my lower water neck was just cut and shut, so I've got a new one of those on the way. I'll need to convert all of that back, ultimately get it all rigged up, running, and then try and feed all of this junk back into it. The standard twins, the standard manifold. Ugh, it's going to be a horrible time. Now, this is not going to be the most well put together, well edited video or anything like that, because the reality is I don't really give a shit about YouTube. I don't really care about any of this stuff. I'm not going to be on the camera. I'm not going to be talking about it too much. Most of this is just here to chronicle to myself what I've done on the car, because what I've realized is with build threads and forums and everything dying over the years and no longer being there to look back and go, what are all the things that I did? I've completely forgotten. I don't know what I've done. I don't remember going full solid mount on this car, but apparently I did. I don't remember taking the head unit out, but apparently I did. I also don't know what I did with all of the wiring here because immediately in amongst all of this crap, I can't see my igniter loom anymore. So I clearly have the R35 coils in I don't even know what bracket that is now. But I don't have anything to connect this into. None of that wiring is there. So I'm gonna have to try and work out what I've actually done with this over the years, and then hopefully put it all back together. The first step of this though is going to be trying to get all of this cleaned up. As you can see, it's sort of been, you know, under, oh my God, I can't even rub through that. That's how thick the dirt is on there. I'll need to clean all of that up. You can see it's had God knows what birds and insects and everything living in it. When I pulled it out of the field, everything was covered. Absolutely everything was covered in hundreds and hundreds of ladybugs. I didn't even realize we could get ladybugs around here, but apparently we can. So I had to clear all them off. I gave it a bit of a rinse down on the trailer, but obviously sitting in here in the shed, it's not the most airtight thing in the world, so it's a bit covered in, I don't even know what that is, fluff, rubbish, I don't know. So first point of call is, let's get this bay cleaned up and ready for me to start rerunning all the wiring, see what's missing, see what's not, see how big of a project this is going to be for myself. Okay, so I've given it a very quick wipe down now. Most of the dirt and filth is kind of off it. Some of it is, I don't know, it's just part of the car now, to be honest. I need to start removing all of the aftermarket parts. So like this Virtual Works neck with all the sensors on the bottom. I've just realized that it looks like one of the coolant sensors is broken as well. I'll need to remove the lower neck. Obviously I won't be able to use that. I have a new one coming. But basically, I want to see if I can start to get turbo manifolds onto it. But let's start off by making sure that's off and that is off. Okay, a couple of 12 mils out of there, a couple of 12 mils out of there, and we should be able to see if these come off now. And they do, thank goodness. Also, oh my goodness, there is a thermostat in there. I don't normally run these in my motors. Oh, okay, that is... I wasn't sure what the condition of this was going to be like, but looking at the amount of rust on that and the fact that it's kind of gotten in under the seal there, I don't think I'm going to run this one again. I think I'm going to order a new one, which is fine because I haven't hit the checkout button for the replacement one of these. Oh my God, look at that. I don't know if this is my work or not. It doesn't look like my work, but fuck me, it's pretty terrible. Anyway, that'll be getting replaced with a brand new OEM one, and then hopefully this will only be held on by this little pipe now that I've pulled the two bolts out of it. Let's get those cables out of the way so you can kind of see. We give this a bit of a wiggle out, and assuming that the O-rings are not ridiculously stuck. Oh my God, is there even a... There you go. Here is an example of how much of a dodgy prick that I am. That was all done with gasket maker. That is not even a proper gasket. Jesus Christ, I am an absolute butcher. An absolute butcher. Anyway, I'm going to wrestle with this for a second, and once I get it out with two hands, I'll take a look at the condition. Okay, that is off now. It's not too bad. Looks like it was sealing all right. Can't see any obvious leaks or anything like that in there, so we'll put that aside. Having a look down here, you can see the little O-ring that it slides over the top. Again, that's in pretty good nick. It's not too bad. Feels kind of malleable enough that I would reuse it. I do have spare O-rings there. I probably should change it, but again, as you can tell from all of this, I am a fucking butcher. So let's go and grab the factory one. I'm going to put that in place for now. I don't actually have the gasket. I'll make sure I order that as well, but we'll just mock it up in place for now because I can easily swap that out later. Okay, that is the factory one, just sitting in place at the moment. I've just sat it on that little lower joiner from the water pump up to the neck. I don't actually have bolts that are long enough in here. So obviously with this one here, as you can tell, quite a lot narrower. So the bolts are very, very short in comparison. Now, this has the coolant temp sensor, but not the, I think that's the warning light on the top. It's missing that one, but that's okay. I can pilfer it out of the other neck. It also has these two little pipes on here. Now they're the water feeds over to the turbos. Now, I'm not convinced that I'm gonna run those. I may still do it. It depends what hoses I still have there. If they're all there, then I will. If not, then I guess we'll see where we go. Now, the next couple of things we need to look at is the oil feeds for the old turbo. So as you can see here, I've tapped the front oil feed with a barb fitting, right? And that was running to the GT47 when that was on there. I also have this much larger return which I will have to pull off and replace with the factory one, because that is the return for both turbos, the front turbo and the rear turbo. You can see there is a nice big bolt right there on the block, a little bit hard to see, but there you are. And that is the oil feed for the rear turbo. And then there will be, just under here, one of the, focus, come on, there we go. There is a water feed there, and that's one of the rear turbo feeds. We need to make sure that we tap that in there as well, because if we're going to connect those two up, we need to make sure they run all the way through to the back. And I've just realized down there, this appears to be one of my missing exhaust bolts. Very, very lucky. All right, so I'm gonna start off by removing these, getting those out of the way, and then I can go and get the factory ones and start to mount those back up again. Okay, so now that I have the return out of the way, and I've also removed the feed that I was using for the big turbo, and I've also removed the block off at the rear, it's time to go back to the factory one. Now, the factory setup is interesting, to say the least. Let me bring it over here so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm gonna lay it out on the floor. Now, it's a pretty straightforward system. They've kept it all relatively integrated. So you can see the section that bolts to the sump for the oil return. And you can see how that drains down from each of the turbos, and I've just tipped it over there. And then you can also see this smaller feed on the side, which comes down to these banjo bolts, one there, and then a second one just under there. Now, that's where the oil feed comes from. So they're not like a traditional turbo where the oil feeds in from the top and then it runs down through the bottom. These actually feed up and then back down, which is really strange, but that's okay. Toyota love to do crazy shit like that. So let's take this and get it fitted up on the motor. Well, after looking at it a little bit closer and noticing that and how most of these hoses are not really looking that great, I think I'm going to be ordering new ones. Now, I never planned to keep the stock twins on this for too long, maybe as high flow, but certainly not in the state that I'm putting them on now. But I need to be able to keep the oil and the fluids in the motor. So given that I don't want to be trying to work underneath the turbo setup, trying to put these back on after, I'm going to stop the video there, and I think I'm going to go inside, order a couple of these, hopefully get them by the weekend, and then we can continue pushing ahead, getting the turbo side back on, and then I can change focus to the intake side and that horrible mess right there.